This conference will now be recorded.
HANA security has evolved when the SAP HANA has been introduced. Now, what exactly is the SAP HANA first of all? So, to simply say in a simple words, SAP HANA is a database. It is not just like the other databases what we have currently, like Oracle, DB2, like the traditional databases. It is a bit different database. So SAP HANA, as a definition you can see here, it is an in-memory, column-oriented RDMS system. So the main difference between other databases and SAP HANA database, that is HANA, is the first point is in-memory. Now, what exactly is called as in-memory? You might be seeing in the traditional any software landscape, you have the front end where the end user will log in, and then you have the processor where your processing will happen, and then the database will be a different. So three different components: front end, CPU, and then your storage database. So they are different actually. CPU, processor, and the database are different. But what happened in SAP HANA is they have increased the size of the processor so that the most frequently used data which you use, they are storing itself, they are storing that data in the processor itself, like in the form of RAM. So generally you must be aware of a RAM. If the RAM is of more size, you can expect the speed in the frequency, the speed of the system. Like if you take the mobiles currently what we have in the market, like now in the previous days we had a 256 MB and then it went to 1 GB, 2 GB. Now we have mobiles even of 6 GB or 8 GB RAM also. So you can imagine the speed of the RAM if the RAM size is increased. Now the SAP HANA RAM size also has been increased drastically. It will go up to 1 terabyte to 50 terabytes RAM. So you can imagine just what is the speed of your smartphone when the GB, when your RAM is 6 GB or 8 GB, what would be the speed of a system if the RAM is of 1 terabyte to 40 terabytes. So that is what is the in memory. So within the processor, within the application server, the database, the RAM size has been increased. So when the RAM size has increased, when you fetch any data from database, it can store a lot of data within itself. So that can easily show you the data and very fast response. So some clients, when SAP HANA was introduced and tested with some clients, have reported that earlier they used to take 1 day to generate the reports. But later, once SAP HANA has been installed and started generating, they could generate the data within a fraction of seconds. So that is the speed of SAP HANA. So I think hope everyone understood the concept of in-memory. So within the processor itself, the RAM size has been increased. So not all the complete database can be stored in that, but the frequently used data. So for example, you have 100 GB of data in your database. You do not require all 100 GB of data, or you do not call the data, retrieve the data each and every day. So you may be retrieving some 20% of data, 15% of data on a daily basis. So that particular data we can place within memory, and so that the response will be very fast and the reports can be generated very fastly. So that is the meaning of in-memory. And the second point is column-oriented. So now all the traditional databases what we have is like a row-based storage, row-based, but this SAP HANA will be a column-oriented, column storage. And this is like RDMS, DBMS, database management system is a very old term. So total in definition, it is an in-memory, column-oriented relational database management system that combines OLAP and OLTP operations in a single system. So generally we had the previous databases as like online. OLTP stands for online transactional processing. OLTP, online transactional processing. But what is OLAP now? It is analytical processing. So it combines the both concepts, online transactional processing and online analytical processing. So transaction is nothing, it does not apply the logic. Just you hit the command, the data is retrieved. But in OLAP, it will apply the logic. You can write some formulae and then fetch the data. System will think, do the logical thinking, and then the data is fetched accordingly, according to the query. So that is the meaning of analytic. Online analytical processing and online transactional processing. So this is all as a package, this SAP HANA has been given to you. So what exactly HANA stands for? There is no actual definition for HANA, but as the history says, so they called it in the olden days when it was launched in 2011, 2010, high performance analytic appliance. So that was taken as a HANA, high performance analytic appliance. So that is the generally definite acronym. We can take it as for HANA, but I'm not sure whether this is official acronym of HANA, because people have been calling it like that, and that has been made as a high performance analytic appliance. Okay, so I'll be continuing the class. If you have any doubts, unmute yourself and you can put me a question. Right now, so I'm just concentrating currently on database first of all, because we need to understand the database first, and then we can go to security. So as a HANA database, we have two versions so far, HANA 1.0 and HANA 2.0. And let me clarify you one more thing. There is something else called as S4 HANA system. So S4 HANA system is a total ERP system, but whereas HANA is only a database. Okay, do not confuse there. S4 HANA is complete package where you have the your ABAP stack, just how do you log in into your SAP system like a logon pad. The way same you log in into your S4 system also. But in that the database will be HANA. S4 system by default the database is HANA. But here we are individually studying the HANA database now. The S4 HANA versions are different. HANA versions are different. So don't get confused. So we are not talking about S4 HANA. We are talking about the standalone HANA database. So HANA has two versions so far, 1.0 and 2.0. So 1.0 was launched in 2011, and there are several support packs available in that. And 2.0 is the latest, which was launched in 2017, and the current support pack stack is 03. This is the very latest HANA version and the support pack available in the market today. Okay, right. So that's about the HANA versions. We have only two versions, HANA 1.0 and HANA 2.0. This is related to database. But when it comes to S4 HANA, there are many versions. So let's just go through how this HANA has been evolved, the brief history of HANA. So we might have been discussing a lot in the earlier sessions how SAP was started. Five previous employees, ex-employees of IBM, and these are the 5 ex-employees of IBM. The founders of SAP. You can see all the pics of 5 people here. These are the 5 people who started SAP in 1972 at Waldorf, Germany. So in these 4 people, there is a guy called, the second one, Hasso Plattner here. So this guy was worried about the SAP's future in the year 2008. because the SAP was saturated. There is nothing new product within the SAP, and they wanted something new in the SAP so that again the market of SAP will boom like anything. So that was the plan of Hasso, and this Hasso partner has this idea, something we have to introduce something new, and then he contacted the Vishal Sikka, who is the former executive board member of SAP then. He was the chief technological officer of SAP, and he was promoted to chief executive board member, and he gave this idea to this Vishal Sikka. So this Vishal Sikka has started. There were already 3 teams working on something they wanted to launch new, but they had formed in the till 2008 2009. They have done a lot of research and development, and they have started something, but nothing was successful. So this guy Vishal Sikka has consolidated all the teams working on research and development, and they have evolved this concept called a new database. A high performance database has to be introduced. The reason behind why they have concentrated on the database is Oracle is the main rival company for SAP, and SAP is still dependent on Oracle till 2008 2009. So they want to reduce the dependency on Oracle, and they wanted to start. So they want to hit the market with a database, and that was the idea. And we can say, so he is the father of SAP HANA, Vishal Sikka. Under his leadership, the HANA product was launched in the year 2010. It was first released to few customers, and then when the results were positive, in November 2011, the product was launched in market, and that was the first SAP HANA 1.0 launched in 2011. So that's about the brief history of how SAP HANA has been launched. So now coming to architecture, what major change has been done. So the traditional 3-tier architecture everybody is aware of who are currently working in ECC. You have the client, the presentation layer, where the end user will interact. The second layer is application layer, and the third layer is your database. The database could be anything. It could be Oracle, it could be DB2, SQL, Sybase, anything. But now it is 2-tier architecture. Your application server and database has been merged. So that is what I have been telling you. So they have increased the RAM space within the application server itself. Though you have a separate database of its own, but this HANA comes with inbuilt application server, and directly you can have a front end to this particular HANA server, and that's why it is now called as 2-tier architecture. So the front end, what is in S4 HANA, let me take the concept of S4 HANA. So in S4 HANA, the front end client, what we are discussing here, is made as Fiori. So the Fiori would be the front end for S4 HANA system, and the remaining will be the database will be HANA, and the HANA server will be the application server. So this is the drastic change, bringing, I told you in the first itself, in-memory database. So in-memory means your processor and then the database have been brought together. So that is the reason they have merged here. Okay. So hope everyone is clear with the architecture part. I don't want to show you the complex diagrams. So there are many complex diagrams, but this will make you understand easier. So don't go with what you don't understand. Always go with what you understand. Right. So the major change in the architecture is 3-tier architecture to 2-tier architecture. That is a major shift. Right. As I told you, it is a database, HANA. How do you operate this database? So do we need to learn database? Some database. What database is it? HANA itself is a database, but how do we operate it? There are different methods to operate it. So these are the different tools or the some applications, how to interact with the database. So HANA Studio, SQL, the basic SQL commands and SQL statements. And the third one is HANA web-based development workbench. And that is nothing but it looks like your enterprise portal. ABAP WebDriver application has been built. This is the link. How do you log in? So https:// SAP hostname followed by :43 and then instance number. If your instance number is 00, it becomes 4300, or if it is 01, 4301, so as wise. And SAP instance number, SAP HANA IDE. So this is the web-based development workbench. So any of the three, you can use it. Those who have a database background, they feel easier to use SQL because they already have the knowledge of SQL. So I tell you, to operate SAP HANA, if you have SQL knowledge, that will be more fetching to you, because almost everything happens in HANA with SQL statements and SQL commands. Whether you are operating in SAP HANA Studio or your ABAP web-based development workbench, it will internally call a SQL statement. So the final thing, how the system will interact with your database or any application is interacting with the database, is through SQL commands. So whether you directly execute the command SQL statement, or you can also execute those SQL statements using these two applications like HANA Studio and HANA web-based development workbench. So HANA Studio is now very famous because of it. It is like a front-end part, end user. We can use it easily, even we do not know, if you do not know the database structure and database usage. So that's why HANA Studio and now the web-based development workbench is also becoming famous. Right, now let's come into the security part. So as a security consultant, what are the roles and responsibilities you need to perform within HANA database? So these are the things which we need to discuss. So the first part is authentication, user administration, role administration. So this terminology we are aware of, the first three. Okay, I have repeated authentication twice, right? Fine. So auditing and then tracing. So applying audit policies and then tracing concept, the way how we trace in our traditional security, like tracing a user. Here also we can trace a user. We can also trace for a particular command, what commands he is executing, or you can trace. So we'll discuss more about it. So first let's go through authentication. Now, what exactly is authentication? So authentication is a process to identify the user. So in SAP, what is the process generally in the traditional SAP system? How do you recognize or identify user? With the help of user ID and password. So we have the same logic or the same process used here also, the user ID password concept that is internal to your SAP HANA database. So that is two types again. How do you identify a user? The process used to identify user is called as authentication. It is two types, internal and external. So what is the meaning of external? So we are using some external application to identify the user, and these are the external applications which are allowed in SAP HANA. So these are some third-party tools, authentication tools, Kerberos, SAML, SAP Logon, assertion tickets, and X5.9 client certificate. So these are the four methods. So when you are creating a user, the system, we have a choice to choose the authentication as well, through which process or application the user has to be authenticated. That depends on your design of your company. So in your company, what type of authentication they are using? First, is it internal? So internal means you can do no need to touch the external part. But if they are using the concept of SSO, and then they want some external application to be used, let us say they are using Kerberos. So while creating user, you need to enable that option called Kerberos for that user. So when you are creating the user ID itself, so there is an option for you to show the uh, for a tick option, so tick box options, which external authentication has to be provided. So we have nothing to do with these connections and all those things. Just while creating user, you need to choose which external application the user will be able to log in using to authenticate. So that you have to choose. Right. So there are two types of authentication. Now coming to the user accounts, just like in SAP normal backend system Arch security, we have different types of users. So within HANA also there are different three types of users, like standard user accounts, technical user accounts, and restricted user accounts. So standard user accounts, so just the individual accounts like you, like a basis guy, security consultant, a database consultant. These are the three teams mainly, and BW, who will have access to the HANA. No other end user. End user will not be given access to HANA database. So who will have access to, how many teams can have access to? So the mainly the database team, your basis team, security team, and BW team. So if there is BW, because they need to do modeling and they need to write the queries within HANA and all those things, so they need so modeling purpose they will be logging into HANA database. So only 4 teams and 4 people are allowed into your database to log in, and nobody else, not even the end user, is allowed to enter into the database. But they would have access to the data what they have in the database, that is HANA, but not to the logging inside the application or the database inside. So now what exactly is standard user? So standard user, as I told you, individual accounts. Every person, every user has his own user ID to log in into system. So that particular ID is called as an individual account. Now what exactly is service account? So service accounts is like you, just like your service IDs in your normal SAP system. Like you need a dedicated ID, system IDs, you can say, system IDs. For background jobs in SAP, we use one separate ID type called system ID. So similarly, we have here an ID called as service account, which is dedicated, used for some particular process or a procedure. And then the third category is application accounts. So this is usually used when we have S4 HANA on your system, because S4 HANA is like a total package. As I told you, many applications will be working on your database. So for each application, as I told you, Fiori is your front end. To have a connection between Fiori and your database, so some account is needed, and that is called as an application account. So when you are installing some applications on your HANA, to interact with that applications, you need a separate account, and that is called as an application account. So standard users as a whole, there are 3 categories again: individual accounts, service accounts, and application accounts. Now, what is second category? Technical user accounts. So technical user account is also not a category, but I can say it is another type of standard user itself. So there is one limitation or a speciality of this HANA system. What exactly is that? Is suppose if you are deleting a user account in SAP HANA, all the objects, whatever the user is going to create in the system, or what the objects he owns, like what tables, queries, etc. Suppose a user is there who created some queries and tables in system, and when that user ID is deleted, all the tables and all the queries that user has written will be deleted. So this is what we have the concept in SAP HANA. So to avoid this particular problem, when user IDs are getting deleted, all the data related to that user, whatever he has created, whatever he owns, also will be created. Suppose a BW guy has created many queries in system. A database consultant has created some privileges in the system. All those will be deleted whenever his user ID is deleted in system. But when user leaves the organization, we need to delete his ID, right? So for that purpose, every user will have two accounts. The account what he can do with his normal login, and then another account which is called as technical user account. So whenever he is creating some data in system, like if I'm creating a role as a security consultant, I am creating a role. I should not use my individual account to create a role, but I should use my technical user account. So to easily recognize what exactly is a technical account, you can add a prefix like a tech underscore your user ID. If your user ID is ABCD, then technical user account should be tech underscore ABCD. So whichever user ID is starting with TECH is a technical user account, and that account should never be deleted. And one more thing is, whatever new things you create in SAP repository, HANA repository, like tables, roles, privileges, schemas, whatnot, that everything you should create through technical user accounts, not through your individual accounts. Because as I told you, if your account is deleted, then all the data created by you will be lost. So that is the use of technical user accounts. So to avoid this problem, we have one more user ID, like the standard user in SAP, which is called as underscore sys and underscore repo. So this ID let me type it here. Okay, there is an ID called as an alternative to technical. So some of the clients, what they do is, so we have an ID. So this is one of the standard user, which cannot be deleted, like SAP star. But we have SAP star in your normal SAP system. In HANA, underscore sys and underscore repo is a standard user. So whenever you create something, we can use this ID to create the data. Like whatever, when you are creating a role, when you are creating a table, when you are creating a schema, we can use this ID to create the data.
Yeah, Sridhar.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we log into this ID, sys underscore repo?
Yes, we can log in.
Okay.
But okay, but what is the limitation? If you use this ID, what will be the problem?
Because all the objects were inherit to this sys underscore repo.
So this ID
Sridhar,
would not be
maybe
deleted, right? This is standard. Yeah.
Sridhar, maybe we may not be able to trace, I guess. If at all everyone starts using sysrepo, I guess tracing will be difficult.
Exactly. So which user is doing what activity, that particular tracing is not possible. So anybody can use this ID. So this is not a recommended process. So that is the reason technical user accounts have come into existence. Otherwise, technical user accounts are not needed. Okay,
And other
but
thing, what I heard is,
Hmm.
sysrepo once we log into this HANA Studio and all, so
Hmm.
sysrepo is the one which we actually use to log in. And once we
Hmm.
log in, we should immediately create an admin account
Yes.
with all the required privileges. And once we
Correct.
have our own set of admin privileges, we need to deactivate this sysrepo.
Same way. How do we do in a SAP normal SAP system? How does the
Yeah, yeah.
business guy first logins into SAP system like SAP Star? They log in with SAP Star and they create one admin ID of basis and our security, and then they log the SAP Star or they change the password of SAP Star. The same
Yes.
procedure also followed here. The first time login will be through SAP SYS repo, and then we create our own IDs and all those things. Okay, any other questions? Right. So the third category, which is called as restricted user accounts. So this restricted user accounts, they need to exist just like I told you the service part. The service accounts, I told you they are used from internal processing and all those things. This restricted user accounts should exist like your RFC connections. Let us take an RFC. So for establishing an RFC, you need a user ID called RFC user. That user you will never use it for login, but it is used to contact between two systems. There is a communication between two systems. So such are these accounts, restricted user accounts. So I told you like applications like again Fiori or some front-end application you are hosting on your SAP HANA to interact with that particular things, the service, this restricted user accounts are used. So with the service accounts, you can log in. The difference between service account and restricted user accounts is you can log in into SAP HANA. These restricted user accounts cannot log in into SAP HANA. Okay. So these are the three categories: standard user accounts, technical user accounts. I told you what is the necessity of technical user accounts, and then restricted user accounts. So how do you create user in SAP HANA? So three ways, as I told you, how do we operate with the SAP HANA? That is SQL statements you can create if you are aware of the SQL statement. In HANA Studio, directly it is like a application where you can open down, right click, and then it looks like a Windows software environment. So it is very easy to create a user in HANA Studio rather than SQL commands using. So even when you are creating a user in SAP HANA Studio or your HANA web-based development workbench, in the backend, a system will be executing a SQL command to create a user. The final outgo or the final communication with the database happens in SQL. So that is the reason I told you SQL knowledge is a must. Or if you learn it, you can easily operate HANA very much. So that is the reason database consultants are more comfortable using SAP HANA rather than the basis consultant and security consultants. So because I do not have system currently available, I'm unable to show you how that SAP HANA Studio looks like. SQL also we can directly log in into database and then execute those commands. But HANA Studio is an application which we need to install separately, and we need to log in into that, and we can do that particular activities. And this XS engine or extended service engine, which XS stands for extended service, is nothing but an application which was built on SAP HANA, which looks like your enterprise portal, similar to enterprise portal, where you have user administration console. Under that, you have create icon to create a user and all those things. You enter the data. So this is the most important part of HANA, like role administration. In normal SAP traditional security, what is a role? Role is a group of T codes and authorizations. But when we come to HANA, in HANA, role is a group of privileges. What exactly is a privilege? How many types of privileges are there? So that is what we have to understand first. So role is nothing but grouping of the privileges. It is nothing critical in creating a role. But how these privileges are, what are these privileges and how these privileges are created? So that is the most important part you should understand. So system privileges, there are 5 categories: system privileges, object privileges, analytic privileges, package privileges, and application privileges. So some are self-explanatory, as the name suggests or represents here. So let's go to one by one. What exactly is a system privilege or object and all those things? So system privileges, as the name says, system, the privileges which allow you to do some system related activities. Privileges which allow you to do the system related activities. Like what? System activities like the backup, system configuration, user administration, role administration. All these, you think whatever the default things what we do when a system is installed, the backup activity, auditing activity, system configuration, etc., etc. All the basis team and database team does all those activities are available by default in your HANA system, and they are predefined. You need not to create them. They are already existing in system. Just you need to choose them to which user what privilege has to be assigned. Okay, coming from user perspective, you can also directly assign a privilege directly, or you can combine them, put in a role, and then assign the role to the user also. So role is like, if it is a role, it is easy for management, for user administration, but you can also directly, you have the facility to assign the privilege as well. They are predefined. You need not create them. As when you install SAP HANA, by default, these privileges come into your HANA system. And these system privileges can be again categorized as 5 categories. So developer. So developer means who, the person who develops inside the HANA. Whoever creates the data, loads the data into HANA database, writes the queries. Developer, especially the BW team, database teams are considered as developers. So they use for modeling. So they write the queries. We call them views here in HANA. Information view or a view. So they write the view, and when the view is executed, you will see the data pulled from your SAP database. Security admin, which are related to the activities like user administration and privileges, role administration. System admin, I told you that earlier, the activities like the backup, audit, and all those things. Environment monitoring, monitoring commands, monitoring activities, and environment performance. So how the performance is up, is it running, optimum performance is being given or not. So these are the things, majorly, these are all predefined, existing in your system. You can just search them and then assign to user. Directly we can assign to user. Okay. Right. So that's about the system privileges. So let's move on to the next one. Object privileges. Now, first I want to concentrate what exactly is an object. So to make you familiar, in HR security, we call HR objects. What are HR objects in HR security? Anyone has idea about it? in HR security, we have something called HR objects. What are they? Okay.
Hi, Sridhar.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, info types are example of HR objects, right?
Yeah. Only one. Do you have any other example? Okay. Yeah. Info type is one, but sorry, we have something like info areas, arg units, positions, everything. Whatever we have in your SAP HR system, they are called as objects. So similarly, within SAP HANA also, we have something called objects, like schema, tables, views, stored procedure, triggers, sequence. Now, what exactly is a schema? Okay, schema is a similar to info area concept in your BW. Before you create your info cubes, DSOs, and then your data. So there, the data holding, where the data, you store the data in a BW system or is a info cube, multi-provider, DSO, info objects, right? So before creating them, we create info area. So info area is a space of its own. So schema is also a separate space. So whenever a user ID is created, there will be a separate schema created on your own name. Suppose you create a user called ABCD, there will be a dedicated schema created for the user ABCD. And within that schema, you can go and create the tables, views, stored procedures, triggers, and sequences. Now, what exactly is triggers? So trigger, I think you are aware of. Any event, we can write a code in such a way. If any event is happening in a system, then some initial trigger. Any change in the table, any change in the performance, if the memory usage is utilized to, it is reaches to 90%, that can trigger something. So like this, a schema, tables, views, stored procedures, triggers, sequences, etc. There are a lot of objects in HANA. Now, what exactly is the object privileges? The types of actions that we can execute against the catalog objects. These are called as catalog objects. What type of actions you can execute on a table? Let us say update table. So update a table. So this update is called as an object privilege. Execute a table, execute a view, insert the sequence, delete. Understood? So these are the actions we can execute against these objects, and those are called as object privileges. Say for example, on a table, what type of actions or object privileges you can execute? So this, we can execute actions like alter, drop, select, insert, update, delete, etc., etc. But when it comes to schema, same actions may not be possible on schema. Suppose I have 10 actions, or I can do 10 actions on tables. All the 10 actions I may not do on schema, or I can do more actions on schema. I cannot do the same 10 actions on views. So that depending on the type of the object, these actions will vary. So when you are creating when you are assigning object privileges, suppose I select a table. User wants some access to this table. So when you select the table, on the right hand side, system will show you what all possible actions can be done on the table, and you have to choose them. Suppose 10 actions are possible on tables. So when you select any table in the database under object privileges, system will ask you what all actions you want to perform on the table. So that you need to tick, and that's how we are assigning the object privileges to user. Okay, so that is the last statement what I am talking about here. All object privileges are not possible on all catalog objects. So there are, as per the, depending on the type of the object, these actions can be performed. You need not remember those actions what will be performed. The system itself will not allow you to perform that action if it is not allowed there. Okay, right, so that's about object privileges. The next one, analytic privileges. So this analytic privileges, I can tell you in simple way, it is similar to analysis authorization concept. What exactly is the analysis authorization concept? There is some data in your Excel sheet or some query. We are applying a filter on that query based on a region or based on the location, based on the designation, something. So this is also similar, granting or restricting access to data that an view, information view is nothing but a query, returns when queried. So when you execute the query, what data is shown to you, that depends on what analytic privileges is assigned to you. So just similar to your analysis authorizations. Okay, so suppose I am creating different analytic authorizations. Suppose you have your business spread across the world, like North America, South America, Europe, Asia Pacific. We have 4 regions. If Asia Pacific analytic privilege is assigned to you, when you execute the query to pull the data out of some box or HANA, you will see only data related to the Asia Pacific. So that is the meaning of granting or access to a data that an information view returns when queried. So these analytic privileges are of 2 types, static and dynamic. So this dynamic concept is new concept which is not available in earlier concepts like BW, analysis authorizations and all those things. It is a new innovative concept. So everybody understood the concept of analytic privilege, what exactly it does. It will restrict the data according to attribute. So in a data, that could be region, as I told you example. 4 regions we have. If I am in charge of Asia Pacific region, I should see data related to Asia Pacific only. So I am applying the restriction on the region. So that is possible through analytic privileges. Right. Now, what is the difference between static and dynamic? So static and dynamic is nothing but, so static means the example now which I told you is applicable to static. If you have 4 different regions, if you want access to a particular region, so you will have 4 separate analytical privileges dedicated to each region. So like Asia Pacific analytic privilege, North American analytic privilege, etc. So whichever region you want, you will assign that privilege to that user, so he will see the data. But now coming to dynamic analytic privilege, you will have only one analytic privilege, only one. Under that, they maintain a table. In that table, you will be, let me show you practically. Suppose if I go to Excel sheet, so I'm dealing like this user 1. So there is a table is been created, user 2, user 3, user 4, and here I am putting this analytical, the region names AP, North America, South America, Europe, EU. So this table is linked up to your dynamic analytic privilege. So when you assign this to when this dynamic privilege is assigned to user, so suppose user 1 is executing this query. So in the dynamic privilege, for user 1, what region has been assigned? AP. So he will see only AP data. So only one privilege will be there, which we assign to everyone, where every user. But in the earlier case, we have separate analytical privileges. Okay, let me show you the exact diagram. So this I can say as dynamic analytical privilege. So in this you will have a table. This dynamic privilege has a table like this. Whereas when it comes to static, so you will have separate. For example, I'll take it as a AP underscore AP, analytical privilege underscore North America, analytical privilege underscore South America, analytical privilege underscore EU. So here in this case, you have 4 different analytical privileges, and each will be assigned to one user. So you can assign this to user 1, user 2. But the same thing we are doing here, but we are framing a table within the dynamic analytical privilege. So this analytical privilege is assigned to every user. As per the user mapping, that data only displayed to the user. Understood, everyone? The difference between dynamic analytical privilege and the static analytical privilege. There is only one analytical privilege in dynamic, but you have multiple static analytical privileges. The region wise, we create one and we assign. Suppose if you want 2 regions here in this table, you need to insert one more column here. That's it. So insert in the table. Suppose user 1 wants access to EU region also. Yes, now he has access to regions. User 1 has access to AP as well as EU. In this case, you need to assign 2 analytical privileges, AP underscore EU, AP underscore AP. 2 has to be assigned to the user 1. Just you need to modify this table. So that's why it is called as dynamic. Whereas this is static. You do not change them. Once created, they are static. But this table gets modified often. So it depends on the design, how your system wants, how your okay. So that's all about analytical. So you can see one-to-one mapping, user to region mapping. Example, the one I told you now. It is one-to-one mapping, like which user wants what analytical privilege. But when it comes to here, user to region mapping, directly in the table. Now the 4th one, which is called as package privileges. Now first of all, what exactly is a package? The SAP HANA development repository is organized into major node structures. So hierarchy, you can say. So your repository, whatever is there in your SAP HANA, that has been organized into nodes, and that each node structure is called as a package. So those who are from ABAP background, they might have good idea about package. So even when we are creating authorization fields and authorization, we have the package concept. So package is like grouping them under one category, like in nodes. So the entire repository is organized into a major node structures called as packages. So for these packages, what type of privileges you will be assigning? So those are called as package privileges. So we have two types again in this: native package privileges and imported package privileges. Now, what exactly is a native package privilege? Native is something which you have built within your SAP HANA system, which you have built from the scratch in your locally. But what exactly is imported? Suppose some other HANA system you have created a package. That package you have imported, you have exported from there and imported into your system. That package is called as imported package. The repository data has been imported from other system, and that is called as imported package privileges. So native package privileges and imported package privileges. And we also have the concept of delivery unit, DU. What exactly is delivery unit? It is related to lifecycle management of packages. Now, what do you mean by lifecycle management? The complete process of transportation. When you are creating something, you will be dedicating to a package. These packages have to be loaded into delivery units, and as a delivery unit, you will be transporting it to quality and production. So delivery unit is like for lifecycle management. In simple words, for transportation purpose, we will combine them together into delivery unit. So these are all the new words now coming up for us in HANA, like package, delivery unit, etc. So especially for transportation purpose only, we use this concept. Otherwise, not required. And okay, in the previous slide, I forgot this. This is one analytical privilege, which is standard _sys _bi _cp _all, access to all information views. Like if you recollect your BW security, we have something called as 0bi _all. When you assign 0bi _all to any user, he will not have access to any, he will not have any restrictions on the data. All data will be visible, right? In the same way, if this analytical privilege is assigned to user, it will give access to all information views, nothing but all queries and data in the system. Clear, everyone? So any doubts in the package privilege and the previous one, analytical privilege? The last category, which is called as an application privilege. So application privileges are like used when you have some application built on your database. Like as I told you, in S4 HANA system, we build some applications for the front end. So when you build that application, so for that application, if you want to apply privilege or restrictions, that particular is called as an application privilege. So for example, let us take, you have a survey. You have a survey. When user log in into particular website or a particular page, the survey will open and he will enter the answers and you have to submit the survey. So that is an application that has been built. So that is an application has been built for the survey. So whenever user logs in into system, a survey has to be opened. That could be an employee satisfaction survey or something like that. You have built some application. So to access that application, what access you will have? Just to submit that survey, but not that to see the data of survey results. So what level of access? As an admin, you should have access to see the results of the survey. As a normal end user, you should have access to submit the survey. So that is called as the application privileges. So define custom level of access to applications developed in the XS or XSA engine, that is the extended service advanced engine, or your S4 HANA application. So web-based applications hosted in that engine. They are not native to SAP HANA. They are not native means not available in SAP HANA by default. They develop according to the customer requirement and user requirement. Okay, so it's all about privileges basically. SAP HANA is all about privileges, and the major challenge what we are facing currently as a HANA security consultants, the database consultants are not allowing us to touch this privileges concept. They are allowing us only to security, that is user administration. They are not giving access to us to role administration. So most of the clients, they are not comfortable giving because of the knowledge levels. Security consultants do not have the privileges knowledge. So database team themselves are dealing in most of the clients today. Still that, so it may take some time to completely give this privileges access also to security team. So this is all about the role administration concept. So we have 5 types of privileges. First one is system, object privileges, analytic privileges, package privileges, and application privileges. 5 types of privileges. These privileges, whatever we want, we can keep in a role as you like it. You can all combine them together and keep it in one role, and then assign the role to user. So user administration is very simple. Just you fill the data, first name, last name, then what authentication he wants and what privileges or what roles he wants. Just select them and save the user ID. So that's about application privileges. And regarding the creating user in the database, we can also do it from your ABAP stack. Suppose if your system is a SAP normal ECC system which is using HANA database, so your SAP ABAP stack, you can also create user from your ABAP stack as well. You can even assign the roles, these database roles and privileges what we discussed from your directly SAP login pad and your normal ABAP stack. The password reset, assigning of roles, and creating user, all these things can be done from your ABAP stack. But if you want to lock and unlock the user, that cannot be done from your SAP ABAP stack. You have to log in into SAP HANA database. You need to lock or unlock or activate or deactivate. We call that activation or deactivation of user. That can be done only from the HANA database. And remaining all other activities also can be done. But we can also do those activities from ABAP stack as well.
Sridhar, one question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling that from ECC system we can assign the roles, right? So role assignment is
Yes.
possible via ECC, but when we want to build the role, I guess we need to do it from Studio itself, right? HANA Studio itself, right?
Yeah. The role exists in the backend only, in the HANA system only. That role we can replicate in your, you can sync into your normal ABAP stack, and then you can assign there in the system, SU01 screen.
No, I am asking the role built initially when we want to create a role. I guess we need to do it
Yes.
only in HANA Studio, right?
Correct. In HANA Studio only. Role creation, privileges concept exist in HANA only.
Okay. Assignment is possible via ECC.
Yes, it is possible through via ECC also.
Okay. Thanks.
Directly you can assign in HANA Studio. So otherwise you can also link it up so that you can assign it from your ECC also.
Okay.
So what all activities you can do from your web stack is you can reset the password, you can create the user, assign the roles. Locking, unlocking is not possible from your listing. So that you have to log in into your SAP HANA database, HANA Studio, and then lock or unlock him, the user. Activate and deactivate the user. Right. So that's all about the privileges concept.
Sridhar, excuse me, I have one doubt.
Yeah.
Can I assign HANA roles through GRC to the users?
HANA, yes, because I told you it is possible from ECC, right?
Yeah, correct.
So then it is also possible from GRC, because in GRC we can provision the roles what we have in ECC1.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So other important topics what we have to deal with is as a security consultant, security lifecycle management. As I told you, it is related to the transportation. So transportation in the sense, so you have different environments like development, quality, production. So you need to maintain the synchronization between all the systems. So that is the main thing of security lifecycle management. As I told you, we use the concept of delivery units to transport the data, repository data, like whatever you create. So we have to load them into delivery units, and that as a delivery unit, you will be sending that to your respective production system. And here, one important concept of what we have here in SAP HANA is it is a pull concept. So what is meant by pull concept? So generally, what do you do in your normal traditional SAP system? We go into development, we load the data into transport request, and then we release the request, right? So when you release the request, it will be moving to quality. But here what we do in HANA, we log in into quality, then we pull the data from that target data source. So the pulling concept is not the pushing concept. The pushing concept, what we are using pushing concept in currently in SAP R3 or normal ECC systems. But in HANA, it is a pulling concept. We directly log in into the production client and then we pull from quality. We log in into quality, we pull from development. So that methodology is used here, pulling concept.
And maybe that is represented in terms of packages, I guess, right?
Yeah. So see, package is like a group of things. That packages you can load into the DUs.
Okay, I mean to say, like in ECC we refer the transport requests. I mean we will refer them as transport requests. In HANA, what we refer them as, like we log into the system in which the data needs to be imported, and there we will get the data. But what is the term called? Like,
So the transport request is equal to delivery unit. That's it. Simple.
okay,
Simple.
okay.
There we load the data into transport requests, right? Here we load the
Yes.
data, the packages into the DU.
Okay. And one more thing, Sridhar, I heard in the previous session, you told that when we actually create the role, SQL code will be built in the backend, right? So will we able to see that code?
Yes, we can mean, so we have to apply the audit. Audit has to be enabled. So that will capture what code has been issued to the system.
Okay.
Whatever you do, when you create a user, when you create a role, when you create a privilege, anything, whatever you do within SAP HANA, internally a SQL statement is released that you can that you can see applying the audit and tracing concept.
Okay.
Yeah, hi Sridhar, Anand here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in SAP GUI we have change documents option, right? Do we have that facility in HANA as well?
Change docs is nothing but audit, right? Audit logs.
Yes.
Yes, we have. So we can, there are like predefined audit policies are enabled in SAP HANA. Just you need to enable them.
Okay.
So like for example, I told you the commands actions like update. There is an action called object privilege called update. Somebody has updated the data into a table or a view. So I want to know on a particular day how many users have used this update action. That audit can be enabled.
Okay.
So you can enable action on a privilege. You can enable the audit on a SQL statement on a privileges. Anything you can do. So all inbuilt audit policies are available.
Okay. For that, we need to enable one by one, or default it will enable.
No, by default it does not enable. We need to enable them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there is separate page in that SAP HANA Studio or whatever HANA Studio. There you need to go and tell the system what which application or which command or which SQL statement you want to trace or audit. So you need to select it, and then so important things like the display we don't generally bother about, right? So whenever something is deleted, whenever something is inserted or updated, so these we can apply the audit whenever any change happens or anybody uses this command, a trigger or a mail is generated, something notification has to be, the audit alerts can be sent.
Okay, Sridhar. Thank you.
And basically the data, whatever audit data, right, if you are enabling it, they are stored into internal tables actually. So we can store into internal DB tables, database tables. We can go and anytime fetch the data from that particular tables.
Okay.
So even tracing is also the same concept. So tracing is we will be tracing the user, but in audit policy we will be applying audit to the particular actions and privileges what we are going to do. So this is tracing concept is specific to user trace. So on which user you want to apply the trace, you need to give the user ID. And then what all things you want to trace. You want to trace only authorizations, or you want to trace authentications, how he is logging in, which authentication method he is using, what all authorizations he is using. So even all those things can be traced. So the only problem what we have currently is the database team is not allowing the security consultants to use the system freely. Whatever we change, whenever we go and apply them, the database team is objecting us. So still we do not have the free hands to operate SAP HANA security freely. So database team has most of the command, and they are dominating in the sector now today.
So as a HANA security consultant, what is our main task day to day?
So as I told you, listed already right here, the first 5 topics. These actually comes under HANA security, but as of now, we are only limited to user administration. Most of the clients are allowing us permitting us to do only user administration and authentication. These two, we are defining these two. Remaining things are still with the database teams.
Yes, Sridhar, do we create any privileges on table.
No.
Okay.
So that is what I told you. You need to have an idea of the table, like database level, you need to have an idea. So if you have database knowledge, so then you can easily create. I told you it is all SQL basically.
Yes.
So these tables and views are created by the developers, modelers. We call them as modeling or developers. So those people will create them and we will assign that access to them. What type of access is needed to that particular data. So still limited, as I told you, still clients are not comfortable to give the entire concept to HANA security team, the security team.
Sridhar, like in ECC, we do role design. Like that, HANA also, we are permitted to do role design, or HANA, what is the database? People will do role design.
Yeah, that's what I told you here. Privileges and all those things are still controlled by the database teams. Most of the clients still do that.
Okay.
Role designing, they are not giving to us actually.
Okay. And one more thing, risk analysis in GIS, you are doing risk analysis, right? Like that, can we do a risk analysis of HANA system by using HANA, or we do it from GRC?
Current GRC 10, 10.1 versions, we do not have anything related to the SQL statements or something like that. We do not have T codes and authorization concept here, right? So maybe in GRC 12, new version is going to release. Already it has been released to few customers, but not released to the market outside. Maybe I am expecting in GRC 12, they might have something related to HANA, this thing, for HANA risks. And one more anticipation is, as I told you, this HANA database level access would not be given to end user. So we do not have any issue of risk concept basically.
Okay.
It is limited users. It is only limited users, right? Like security team, basis team, database team, and BW team maximum.
Okay. We will not give this access to any end user, only for technical team. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. That means it kind of a complete database administration.
Yeah, that's why database team is not allowing us. They are not feeling secure themselves because that is the main job they are doing. And if you go on into that area,
yeah,
that is a problem.
Yeah. It kind of some basis tasks also will come.
Yes. So authentication especially is more of basis task. The connectivities and the SSO concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that. Anand here.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does the native HANA application mean?
Native means which is inbuilt. Along with the installation, you have that in your system by default.
Okay.
And if you are creating something within the system, you created something within the from the scratch. That is also called a native.
Okay.
What is the other one imported means? You created something in a separate system, some other system, some HANA 2 system, and you want to that same thing in your system. You can export and import that into your system.
Okay.
So what happens is here the ownership concept is most important. Who created that object is the most important factor, plays a role.
Okay.
So that is the reason I said there is a difference between native as well as imported. So when you are importing something, whatever the objects are there in that data, you are not the owner of it. But when you create something inside that is called native, you will be the owner of it, everything, for every data.
Yeah.
And the person who is creating the data in HANA,
okay.
Suppose if I am creating the role, right?
Okay.
I will have complete access to that role. I can modify the role, I can delete the role, I can assign the role to others, etc.
Okay.
And when I assign, suppose I have a role called role administration. What does role administration access gives you? It gives
It
access
changes
to
the role.
create roles and assign roles. Yes,
Yeah,
right?
maintaining of roles.
Yeah. So that role, suppose I am assigning to you. I am assigning
Okay.
to you means you can do the role administration activities. Means you can create a role, you can modify the role, etc.
Okay.
But if you want to assign that role to anybody else, again, somebody else,
Only
that is
owner
not
can do.
possible in HANA. Yes, only I can do it.
Yeah.
The person who created only can assign to others.
But owner can assign that ownership to another user also, right?
Exactly. As a owner, I need to assign that ownership to others also. Only then he can assign to others.
Yeah.
So that option is called as grantee option. Grant for others.
Okay. And in ECC,
So
we can
that,
restrict the role validity, right? In ECC, we can assign the role to 1 day or 2 days or 5 days. But in the
what is that
facility is not
question?
available in HANA. In role tab, we can restrict the role validity. We can assign role for 5 days or 10 days in ECC.
Yes, we do not have. Yes, we do not have that concept.
But we don't have that facility in HANA, right?
Yes, exactly. We do not have the validity concept of role. For the user, you have. User, you can assign a validity, but for not for role.
So if we want to restrict the role validity, we need to remove manually, right?
Yes, we need to remove that role completely.
Okay. I think that is the
So
drawback in
as
HANA.
yes, that is a drawback. As I told you, one more thing. We can assign the validity in the ECC level. If you are pulling the data into ECC and then assigning, there you can assign validity. But within HANA, we cannot assign.
Okay.
Right. So any other doubts?
Let's take that.
Yeah.
To create any role in HANA Studio, do we use SysRepo ID or our own ID?
So I told you two consequences. If you use SysRepo, there is no audit or trace activity who has done what, right?
Yes.
So that is the reason I told you there will be a separate account for you, which is called as technical account. So with that account, you need to create the roles. With your own ID, you should not create anything.
Okay, the technical account will be like service ID, or each one will have their own technical IDs.
Yes, every user will have their own technical account. Should have the technical account.
Okay, fine. And
So
do you
again,
have
that
any
depends.
SOD?
Yeah, tell me.
Do you have any SOD concepts like how we have in ECC in HANA?
Yeah, that's what I told you, right? This access will not be given to end user. So the SOD concept will not come into picture here. It is a very least bothered, because we know what a security consultant does, what a database consultant does, what a basis team does. So we don't need that concept of SOD here.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, in a project environment, suppose there is a GRC is there, HANA is there, then there must be integration will be there.
Once again, come again.
In a project environment, GRC also we are using, and HANA also there. Then there will be integration in between GRC and HANA.
See, if your system is S4 HANA system,
okay,
integration definitely will be there between S4 HANA and GRC as a normal ABAP system and all those things, right?
correct.
But we are here concentrating on HANA database. So why will you integrate some system with HANA first of all? Any system first of all? What is the purpose you will integrate?
You said we can also maintain user administration
Yeah.
in GRC also.
Right.
We can give assign create user something like that. Using GRC we can create, right? It is easy through workflow concept using GRC.
Yeah. So how many members will be there in HANA database? Security. Let us talk about 10 each. 10 security consultants, 10 database consultants, 10 basis consultants are there, and 10 BW or 20 BW. Total how many users? You have 50 users, correct?
Correct.
For these 50 users, do you need a integration with GRC to create them?
Okay.
So you should validate what is the outcome. If you are doing something, what is it worth? So we are integrating a GRC with systems for risk analysis, for automated user administration, automated role administration, firefighter ID concept.
Yes, correct.
Right. So we cannot use the firefighter ID concept. We cannot use the risk analysis. We cannot do the role administration. Only we can do is user administration. Just for doing user administration, and that too for 50 users, will you integrate and bear the cost of that integration?
Okay. Okay.
So database level, we never do it, but the front end part, the ABAP stack level, we definitely go for it, because more users will be there, end users will be there, so we can save a lot of time. That is worth actually.
Okay. And this RFC connectors also will be there, no? Generally. HANA to GRC, no?
See, we never connect GRC to HANA.
Okay. Okay.
It is an application lying on a HANA. So, see, currently also we are using, I told you the architecture part.
Sir, I missed it 15 minutes, sir. Okay.
So this is the part. So treat here, this one. This is your GRC is a front end and database is HANA, that's it.
Okay. Whatever the user administration concept, same also in S4 HANA.
S4 HANA is nothing but your R3 security. There is no difference between that.
Okay. Okay.
But for a end user login, they are using Fiori concept.
Okay. Fiori concept. Okay.
And end user will log in through Fiori in S4 HANA.
Okay.
Right. So any other questions? So I'm done with my session. So if you have any questions, we will discuss. Otherwise, we can close it.
And how many days?
Pardon?
Sridhar, how many days this course will be goes on?
Still, I'm not yet planned this course because see the limitations are there, as I told you, the database and all those things, right? Access levels at database level. So if I definitely plan the course, I will let you know again. I'll post in the groups and all those things.
Okay. Can we expect in a 1 month or something like that?
I'm trying for access to system. Like if I get any S4 HANA system or a HANA database access, so I will try to plan a class because it is worth to have a system and then experience system.
Yes, correct, 100%.
Yeah, only these technical PPTs will not be sufficient. So if I can get the access to HANA database and those HANA Studio and all those things, we can plan a session.
Okay, Sridhar. Okay.
Sridhar?
Yes.
Are you going to upload this video into the YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. Can we get the link?
Yes. I'll share you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice session.
Okay, sir. Thank you for a grateful session.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you, Shreya.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shreya.
Thanks, Sridhar.